This is 2b2t, the oldest anarchy server in Minecraft, and among its vast wastelands and legendary players, one name stands above all the others: Popbob. Feared, hated, respected, and mythologized, Popbob wasn't just a griefer. She was a hacker, an architect of destruction, and a shadow lurking behind many of the most infamous moments in 2b2t history. Today, I'm gonna explore the full legacy of Popbob, the rise, the exploits, and the legend that still haunts 2b2t to this day. Popbob joined 2b2t in mid-2011, just months after the server was founded by Housemaster. At this point, 2b2t was still a secret corner of the internet, known only through obscure 4chan posts and word of mouth among the players. The server in those days was raw, spawn was relatively untouched, and players were still figuring out how to survive and build on a server with no rules. Popbob quickly distinguished herself by playing a little differently. Where most players saw 2b2t as a challenge to build, Popbob saw it as a sandbox of destruction. And on the oldest anarchy server, Popbob wasn't alone. She was part of the first wave of players experimenting with tons of hacked client modifications, early forms of what would later become full-blown hack clients. She developed, or at least used, rudimentary forms of X-ray and fly hacks, giving her a massive edge in rating and tracking players. One of Popbob's earliest known actions was the griefing of a base known as Passytown. It wasn't a large base by today's standards, but it marked a key moment. Popbob wasn't just hunting players, she was trying to make a name for herself on the server. Soon, the other players on 2b2t began to fear the name of Popbob. Some tried to form alliances to defend themselves, others fled thousands of blocks away, which at the time was pretty far out since there weren't any highways formed. But Popbob had a relentless drive to track every player down. She used the overpowered nether travel before it even became common. And for those of you who don't know why it's overpowered, one nether block is 8 overworld blocks, so you can literally travel 8 times as fast. Without the highways of today's 2b2t, she began to build her own. It wasn't just griefing anymore, it was literally psychological warfare, and the other players on the server were terrified. They began whispering the name of Popbob in the shadows. The stories began spreading, half real, half exaggerated, but the fact remained: if Popbob found your base, it was already gone. Popbob quickly became known for two things: the mastery of hacked clients and her insatiable desire to find and destroy other players' bases. By late 2011, another player by the name of Trika had already found an exploit to find bases even more efficiently. Because new lightning storms sent sound 160,000 blocks in every direction, but only if there was a player where the storm occurred, Trika figured out how to triangulate to the center of the storm to find exactly where the player was. Once Popbob found this method, she utilized it to the max, and eventually the server owner, Housemaster, stepped in and literally disabled lightning. But not before Popbob had so many base cords that she continued to grief even months after. Bases like NFE, which Popbob was a part of until turning on the group, the lands, known for its experimentations with megastructures, or even Old Town, which was one of the oldest known settlements on 2b2t. So many more of these bases didn't even stand a chance. By utilizing newly made hacks called Nuker to instantly destroy large areas and lava cast, the bases vanished with ease. Every sign left at another grief base with the words Popbob sent the clear message that no one was safe. The destruction spree during this early time period of 2b2t helped further shape the paranoia-driven culture of creating bases on 2b2t. Her griefs taught players that no one could truly be trusted on the oldest anarchy server in Minecraft. In 2013, Popbob escalated from using hack clients to using server exploits. Teaming up with other coders, she implemented one of the first known backdoors into 2b2t's code. For those of you who don't know what a server backdoor is, let me explain. A server backdoor is the unauthorized access to a server's backend by creating a plugin, exploit, or malicious code. It allows the player who created it to bypass the normal rules and limitations of the server or the game itself. In 2B2T's case, since there's no rules to begin with, they potentially had access to tons of things only the owner could use. It could include teleportation, spawning in illegal items, reading the private messages of players, accessing coordinate logs of bases, and literally bypassing any kind of anti-cheat plugins. And this is exactly what Popbob did. Along with destroying tons of bases, the new backdoor created what is now known as Plugin Town. By using the admin abilities like World Edit and Creative Mode, Popbob and others were able to build huge structures without getting the blocks manually. It marked a turning point in 2B2T's history that the server could never come back from. Popbob wasn't just running out to people's bases to grief them anymore. She became a puppet master with more power than any other player on the server. Between 2013 and 2016, Popbob continued making her mark on 2B2T through destruction, griefing bigger and bigger bases every time, including Valkyria and Aurora's City. Aurora's City, known for its fascinating architectural project, showcased many golden towers, bridges, temples, and more. Located millions of blocks away from spawn, they thought they were completely safe from the server's dangerous players. I mean, who would be willing to travel that far just to destroy a base? But they didn't account for how far Popbob would go just to destroy what they had created. Whether it was through a coordinate leak, advanced hacks, admin level access, or something else, Popbob managed to find it. She arrived alone, and after exploring it, she left it in ruins. Popbob had developed the tools and techniques that led to finding many other hidden bases as well. Literally nothing was off limits, and Popbob's griefing was surgical. Not just blowing up the bases with TNT machines, she would corrupt chunks, break bedrock, remove every item, and erase the mere memory of the base. It wasn't just the destruction of bases that made Popbob so infamous on the server, but it was the continual development of the psychological side as well. The fact that so many players had been impacted by Popbob's grief made the name continually get more and more terrifying every single day. This fact alone made many players quit 2B2T altogether, or at least stop building mega bases. Moving on to 2017, Popbob joined forces with a group called Nerds Incorporated. This would be the group that would develop the most powerful exploit the server had ever seen, the Nocom exploit. This exploit allowed the group to determine the exact coordinates of any player or base without ever having to go there. By understanding the chunk loading system in Minecraft, they figured out that even when they weren't near a chunk, you could teleport to that location. If the server responded with "chunk does not exist," that would mean that no player was there, but if it responded with something else, then that meant a player was nearby. After further development of the exploit, they built an entire bot network that would be able to do this millions of times to try to detect basically all the chunks on the server. And with this new power, it would make Popbob's previous griefs look like child's play. With the Nocom exploit, Popbob, and the entire Nerds Incorporated team, they tracked nearly every active base on the server in real time. It led to the fall of massive mega bases, including Nautilus, Block Game Mecha, and the Drain base, which I've already covered in a previous video. Entire communities were destroyed in days. Tens of thousands of hours of building gone overnight, and no one on the server even knew what was happening. A little while later, Nerds Incorporated posted a video explaining how they had done it and admitting what they had done. By 2019, Popbob's presence on the server became more rare and her legend grew. Whether burned out or simply satisfied with her impact on the server already, she began to fade from the chat. But even in her absence, Popbob influenced every griefer, every exploit hunter, and every power-hungry veteran who wanted to leave their mark on the oldest server in Minecraft.